All right, I am here with Miss Annie Simpson. I'm gonna let her start off to tell us who she is and how she freaking got here to work with me. Because it's such a crazy story, and we'll kind of go back and forth. But today we're gonna talk about change, and even though sometimes there's subtle change or abrupt change that it has to occur, and that's where she's at in her life. And I'm just thankful for the time that we've had. And I've learned a lot. So I'm going to turn it over to you and just tell us who you are, Annie.
Sweet. My name is Annie Simpson. I am a born and raised Kansas City girl at heart. I love my Kansas City barbecue. Don't come at me. Don't come at me. But I am an actor, a singer, a dancer. I love fitness. I love people. I love iced coffee. I love sad Drake songs. Yeah.
She does like sad Drake songs.
Sad Drake songs. I've been caught in this gym alone, like listening to sad music, and people are like, what? Because I'm such a bubbly person, you know. But so we met each other through Title Nash, where we both are, and I don't even know how you got me to work here. I had another very stable, very good job, but I had been coming to your classes, and I loved Title so much. I loved just the space that we provide for people, and there was something about growth and confidence and so many things that I think I was meant to be around you and learn from you, and help kind of pass those seeds along to other people through the process. So that's how we got to this table today.
I mean, it's kind of crazy because the first time that I saw you, and I was like, I didn't even know that they were even talking about hiring you. So
really?
No, I had no idea. So they were like, Amy was like, we got this girl named Annie. And I'm like, Annie, are you talking about the freakishly bubbly girl that's let me go back. Annie is the most bubbly. Some people are so bubbly that you think it's fake. You're get this person away from me.
Yep.
No, you're genuinely bubbly. You're when you're ready to say hey Jarrod, where's her knife at? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
She is up to something. Because everybody that acts like that, it's not really like that.
Exactly.
But that's you. So when I met you, it was okay, I think there are some things that I see here, but I think we could develop some things.
Yep.
So our first conversation on the phone, I didn't even think that you liked me.
Really?
It was weird because I was talking to you. I was like, yeah, I think you should really come and work for us. I was like, I literally remember saying this. I was like, I want you to know that we're the same, but they're not like me. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't trying to say that I was better than other people. I was just saying that I had literally prayed about it, and I thought we were supposed to work together, but I didn't want to say that because I didn't know how you would take it. So I kept saying we're not alike, but we're alike.
Right.
Because sometimes in businesses when you work with people, everybody has their own thoughts and ideas, and that's understanding. But I didn't want to push it on you because I've done that before. And so because I was trying to change, I just didn't want to come off that religious person that just throws God in your face. Because you're who is this crazy guy talking about God all the time? You know what I'm saying? But once you decided to come on board, you realize there are no health benefits. You realize everything was wow. But that was the change. You went from stable job to really walking out on faith. Literally walking out to come into this position. And Title Nash it's a boxing club that is a title box organization that we've grown three businesses, and now you are one of our GMs. But before your other job, when you say actress, when you say when I think of Annie, I think Broadway. So what is your main goal? What do you want to do?
Yeah. So my favorite thing in the whole world is being the vessel for a story. I've always been a crazy dreamer. That's not hard to imagine at all. Ever since I was little, I was memorizing Little Rascals was my favorite movie. And Sister Act. Sister Act is still my personality. I'm obsessed with Sister Act. But I've like always been a little boy crazy. So I used to want to be a nun with a drum. That was like my dream. And my parents were like, no. What I really wanted to be was like a lounge singer with like friends in the church. I'm like, I couldn't do the nun part. I was like, I actually like want to be a lounge singer and just have like a group of pals that I like chill with. So once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I don't want to be a nun anymore. But at the end of the day, I want to tell stories I care about.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm forgetting in this moment whose quote it is, but it's something about like your greatest purpose is where your greatest passion meets like the world's greatest need. And so the way that I can feel refreshed after I watch a movie, see a show, hear a good podcast, connect with a person, like whatever kind of way that a story is told, I know those moments that have shaped my life. And I'm so thankful for the performance opportunities I've had so far and the ones that are ahead, because as cheesy as it sounds, like I'm changing the world, and I'm changing the world like we all are just by who we are. I feel like everything has to come from our being. Our doing has to start in our being. But when I'm on stage, like that is when I feel God. I feel God when I'm in the mountains, and I feel God when I'm on stage. And so I think my whole life has been this battle of like, am I brave enough to actually do and be who I think God has called me to be? And there are seasons where I have, and there are seasons where I have not, And right now what I'm experiencing is this like, I love Nashville. My family's here. I love my job. This title has been my favorite job besides acting I've ever had. My family's here. Like, it's so stable. And yet I feel called to be in New York City. And like, I know God has things for me there. But like, for a while I was kind of like, the change seemed like too much. And I was living there before. So it's not even logically, it's not even that big of a deal to like go again. But I just have been wrestling with like, can I do this? Can I pivot? Can I make this happen? And I'm such a cheese ball by nature, but when I come like back to myself at the end of the day, like, is it Nelson Mandela that says our choices have to reflect our hopes rather than our fears? Like, if I actually think of, am I being brave and making choices where I believe in myself, or am I not? Like, it's actually pretty simple. It's kind of scary. It's so simple. So right now I've kind of come to the point where I've been like, yes, I'm going to move to New York. Broadway's my dream. Telling stories I care about is my dream. But I think it was actually this season of wrestling with coming to terms with that and really being like, Annie, do you believe in yourself? And kind of like that, you kind of watched me struggle through that this spring and kind of really step into a new, not even like level up, but almost like step down into a new level of confidence. And I still freak out, but at the end of the day, like, I gotta go for it.
How do you do that? Like, obviously we're all in a phase in our life where it's not that we want something new. It's that, like you say, we want to level up. How did you get to that point to where you actually believe? Because a couple weeks back we were talking, you were like, Jarrod, I'm making good money. I love the people here. And you start to see stability. You start to see like you can create something and grow something here. Yeah. So how do you take that and shift it to where then you just pretty much just like throw it away to do something different? How do you make that big of a change?
Yeah, I think for me it just comes down to like I've always just wanted to figure out what all is inside me. So I've always been digging to be like, how great of a runner can I be? I didn't used to run marathons. Like that was like something I figured out in the past like 5 years. I'm like, oh, I ran a 5K and I like it. But then you're like, what if I run a half? What if I run a marathon? So for me, it's like every level of my life, like I just have this hunger to figure out what is inside me. And so I feel like I have grown and learned so much in this past season. And I can feel when I get to, it's not even the limit, right? Because I feel like we're in charge of our own growth. Like you'll grow where you are, period. Yeah. But if I think about, my vocal coach that is in New York City that I need to be in the room with, dance teachers that are in New York City, auditions that are there. Like once I think so many things are just about being able to call yourself out on your own BS So if I was like, ooh, okay, the paycheck is great or whatever, like whatever that comforting thing that tries to like lure me in to make the safer choice, I just got to look to that bigger, deeper thing that's going to push me, because I've always had zero interest in settling. Like that's a non-negotiable for me. I won't allow myself to.
What is holding you back from change? From like, what are the constraints or the other variables that will stop you from going to follow your dream?
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's like the small stuff, like when I think about kind of, I've been on a big James Clear Atomic Habits. Have you read that book yet?
I haven't.
I'll give you my copy. I've read it 3 times this year. But sometimes, right, like let's take somebody who's like, I want to get in shape, or I want to, just something kind of basic. But it's always like, how, right?
Yeah.
And I've been really kind of going back to like, how can I up my discipline? How am I doing things daily, like small habits to get me to where I want to go, instead of trying to make these drastic changes that then, then you can't ever like, keep up with. So I think sometimes for me, what comes in my way is like procrastination, just being honest. And that's because I'm a perfectionist. But perfectionism is BS, because that's just fear in a different like light.
Absolutely.
It's just so, and like that's me, honestly, like that's just like my ego worrying about my image. Because none of us want to be bad at something, right? Like what if I moved to New York and it's terrible? Like that's going to be so embarrassing. But what? So that kind of holds me back of like, what will people think, right? Which you really helped me when I had I'll call it a spiritual awakening. It was a breakdown a few months ago. And you were like, you have to channel into that spot of like, I don't care what people think. In the best way, right? Because we want to be caring, empathetic people. We don't want to be psychopaths. But like, I have to come to terms with the fact that, let's say I move to New York and it's terrible. It's not going to be. But let's just say, right?
Yeah.
I can handle the disappointment and the rejection that will come along with that if it just crashes and burns. But what's the most clear thing to me is I can't handle, let's say another month goes by and I just kind of have this like low-key sadness or this like low-key restlessness of like, am I doing really all I can do? Like I can't live with that.
Yeah.
So that's for me where I go back to.
Yeah. I mean, but it's the same thing like we talked about. So when she had her spiritual awakening, that breakdown, I literally, when we were in this office and everybody was crying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A week before that, I walked out crying, and because you get to a certain point where you believe in yourself, but you don't realize that you're actually looking for outside or external affirmation. Yeah. Like you don't really believe in yourself. And I don't know if you remember, I told you, pack up the thing that means the most to you because you have to get ready to move. And that's scary. So that's even how we got to this. Like in my being, I'm going to speak. In my being, I know that you're going to be on Broadway shows. Like I can see like my Leilani, like I can see her spinning with you on the stage. And I'm like, oh my God, like my baby girl's going to leave me for Broadway. But I feel that. I felt that me, but I allowed everyone outside of me to tell me, Jarrod, you're just a trainer. You're not this, you're that. Mm-hmm. And because of that, that created fears within me. And I had to really realize that I had to change and say, who cares? So that's why I wanted to sit down with you. Annie just got back from a trip to New York. She doesn't have a place yet, but she went to go look to find one. I think that's the first part of change, is that you actually have to see the change. Like you literally went to go see it. So you went to go seek a new place, not even having one. Now, when you think about this in this world we live in this business, you pretty much eat what you kill, right? Commission-based training, whatever. You might have a small base, but there's not really monies that you can put back.
Right.
So when you went out there, it's like faith. And what I'm realizing is faith is not just believing it before it happens, is actually believing the things that God did before.
Yes.
And that's why I'm here. Like the reason why we're doing this change and having this conversation is because I know I'm going to speak. Like I feel it. Like that's why I didn't want to wait. Like I called Annie, just so everybody knows. I'm like, Annie, are you ready? She's like, sure. I'm like, let's do this now because you just got back yesterday from New York. It's fresh on your heart. What change did you feel in New York? What change did you feel that had your heart feel like, this is it? Like, this is it. What was it?
It's a gut thing, like you were just saying, but it has to be. It's so deeply personal. Nobody else can tell you, right? Like people are like, Jarrod, what? Like, who are you? What are you doing? You know, and it just is like a really quiet, whether you call it the voice of God or the voice of whatever. Like, it's just this quiet thing in my gut that I just was walking around and I was like, it feels like home.
So with the big rats and the trash,
yes! and the psychos around me,
running around. I'm in New York. I'm like on 10. I'm like, I got my jacket.
I'm like, come at me.
Yeah, but I felt it when I was there as well. So is getting to New York making it, or is actually performing on the stage making it?
Yeah, I see. I struggle with this because I'm such an ambitious person by nature that I'm terrified that I'm going to get to the end of my life and be like, I didn't enjoy all the in-betweens, right? Yeah. So I'm trying to like acknowledge and celebrate as much as I can along the way, like the steps of just like the process versus the product. Because I think part of what I always try to go back to, I might butcher this a little bit. I'm a big quotes person. Dallas Willard says, like, the most important thing in your life is not what you do, it's about who you become. Yeah. So anything external that we do that I think people see, they're like, oh, cool, you're a boxer. Oh, cool, you're a dancer. You're a speaker, whatever it is. Like, it is. The external part is the cool thing, right? But I always try to come back to, it's more about just, like, who I am. And what makes me so excited and, like, so grateful I could cry and like, text you a poem I wrote in my notes about the gratitude I have, because I'm like, I feel like I'm walking in faith. I feel like I'm the person God has called me to be. And that's always growing and changing and evolving, right? As we hopefully grow and change. And it's scary, but what helps me more than I went there to just kind of like wander and daydream and be like, is this what I want? Yeah, it's what I want. But what really like shook me was thinking about all the times where God has like not only like not let me fall, but like helped me fly before. And so when I really come back to that and go, like, when has he ever let me fall? I mean, I've been at rock bottom. Like, I've messed up. Let's be clear about that. But like, I was never abandoned. I was never on my own. I was always okay. Like, when you think about what has worked out for you in the past, there's no point in not trusting.
So on the flip side, so I'm a believer, you're a believer, right? Now, some people are religious and some people walk with God. Yeah. What would you say to those that don't have a belief or a foundation in Christ? Because it's easy to say that. Like, I was doing an interview earlier and I just realized, like, from some of the things in the comments that the young man made was like, golly, like, you really have brought me this far. Like, you really brought me from homelessness. You really brought me from walking. That's what you say, the goodness of God. But when you're in it and you're not a believer, what would you say to those that don't necessarily believe or have a different belief process? What would you say in them trying to get to that change?
That's a great question. Because for me, it doesn't matter what you call it, God, like whatever, whether you have anything spiritual to follow or not, like, I just would say in the most encouraging and challenging way, like, just like, you deserve it. Whatever you're questioning, like, whatever you see, like, you deserve it. Like, you fight for you. Because I just don't think anything is by accident, and whether you think that is faith or not, like, if there's something in you that's like, I want to bake the best cakes in the world, go bake those cakes, baby. What I mean? Like, I just am like, you deserve it. And it's the same thing that makes me yell at you on the mic in class. Like, it's not because I don't think you're great, but if you can push harder than you're currently pushing, we're about to have a problem, because I'm going to call you out on it. But that's from the most loving place. Yeah. Because if you have something else inside you that isn't coming out, we're so like lucky to have people around us that help get there. But I just would say to somebody, like, just go for it, because you actually, like, you deserve to see that happen.
When did you honestly start to own who you really were and, like, being you? Because I know from my point, like, I'll be 39 this year. Mm-hmm. I really didn't truly start believing in myself until around 34 or 35.
Yeah.
But then it turned itself in. It turned into a three-headed monster where I thought I believed in myself, but it was because of working with celebrities or the finances that I made. So it really wasn't me. It was a shell of Jarrod.
Yep.
And then when I really pulled it and stripped it down, when I was really myself, a lot of people fired me, or because I told them how I felt out of love.
Sure.
And I'm not, Ian, sometimes you got to learn when to shut up. I've learned that. You know what I'm saying? Like some days you're like, shut up, Jarrod. But when did you really truly know who Annie Simpson is? Or obviously that's still evolving, but when did you really just say, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to be, I don't care what anyone says?
It's so tricky because I have a few points in my life that are like, we always remember, we hate the rock bottom moments, right? But those are those moments I come back to. And I think, for anybody that's, struggling to find themselves or struggling to find that next brink of change, actually sometimes not knowing where you are is just or what to do next, not knowing like exactly what's right, is just as important, if not more important, than those moments where you do feel on track.
So then what do you do when you're off track? Like, if you don't know, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Me personally, and I think it's very important to figure out what works for each person, but for me, it's like very simple things. It's like, okay, am I sleeping? Am I drinking water? I'm going to call my mom. My mom's going to tell me the truth. Okay?
Yeah.
So you got to be ready for that call, Mom. But, having that, probably less than a handful of people that I can really, really call and trust, having that council of people. And sometimes you also just got to sit in that feeling, I think, and be patient, because not every season is your winning season, right? But I still think that every season is your season. Like if this is your growth season, if this is your like, shoot, I can't get it together season. I think one of my favorite authors, Rob Bell, calls it like a South Star. We all know how to find a North Star, right? And be like, that's what I want to do, or that person inspires me. But how do you take those moments in your life that are like, ooh, I think I'm supposed to learn something here, and help it guide you? So I guess also when in doubt, just pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
I think we get caught up in doing what the world or doing what everyone says you should do. Status quo, right?
Yes.
Like, Jarrod, you're this, or you're doing this, and you hide behind that because you become good at, like you say, you grow, or wherever you plant it, you're going to grow. Like, it's just who we are. But it's when that plant becomes too big and that vase or that regular base, and you take it out and put it into a bigger pot, that's when you're uncertain. So because you're uncertain with New York, is there more heightened fears? Like, what is it now? Like, when you think of, not 6 months ago thinking of New York, but when you think of New York today from when you got back yesterday, what are you thinking now?
That's a really good question. I think, okay, sorry, I'm talking about so many authors, but
this is you, Andy. This is you.
Okay, Elizabeth Gilbert says, magic is nothing more than the next right thing that wants to happen. So I don't even have like a big giant I do all the very basic white girl like vision board and all that. Let's be real, I do it. But like I'm so open. I just feel really open and really confident right now. And because I've been there before and I know how hard it is, I think sometimes, myself included, we're like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to push myself. And then we freak out on day 3 when it's really hard, right? I've already accepted that I'm going to call Megan sobbing. Like, it just is going to be part of the process.
Yes.
So I think when you can learn to not take things so personal, and I can start to see how I would like things to unfold when I'm there, who knows? It's not going to go exactly according to plan. But now that I can start to visualize it just a little bit, it just feels like I'm going to take it like one stride at a time. And it just feels really hopeful.
Scary as hell. I mean, I'm literally here doing this with you, And it's not because I'm doing it. I'm doing this with you because I know that everyday people need to see everyday people's struggles, because we only see the highlights of people's life right now. And change is inevitable. We saw that during COVID. Mm-hmm. We saw that like with everything going right now. And where I'm at in my life is like, I've made the most money I've ever made. I've spent the most time I've ever spent with my family. But I feel that inkling in my spirit. I feel it.
Yes.
And I'm like, but even I called Megan, I talked to Laura, my wife, a couple weeks back, and I was like, I'm doubting everything. Yes. Like, I don't know if I can speak. I don't know if I can open up on the stage and do this. I don't know if I can finish this book because of Kiese Layman's and Ta-Nehisi Coates and all these books that I've read. I'm like, I'm not good enough. But then we just get to a point where it's like, I just got to do it.
Yeah.
So for you to sit down with me and talk about change is huge for me. So thank you. Like, I am so excited. I told you before, a good coach will want to develop you and you to stay.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a great coach who will develop you and let you go. And I do believe that your legacy is my testimony. So when you go out there and you're on that Broadway stage, before going back, when I see people that I've helped succeed, I thought they owed me something.
Yeah.
And that was wrong. That was the change that guys allowed me to go through. Now when I see that, I'm like, man, you are killing it. And no matter the seed that I had sown behind closed doors, it doesn't matter. I don't need to be celebrated for that. I just need to celebrate you. So one of the biggest things in change is, like you said, is surrounding yourself with people that will celebrate you, that will cry with you, like that will celebrate with you. And then also being able to round the haters, because there's been so many haters. But that's the good thing. It's like I realized, it's like I had a coach tell me one time, like, Jarrod, there's levels of this and you're not on that level. But what he didn't realize, I am on that level. But because I allowed him to speak that to me and I received that, then he was right. So that's why I'm interviewing him next. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's do it. So what can you leave us with being fully and owning fully who you are in your transition? Because I now know it's not about money. It's not about fame or notoriety, but it is about time. It is about me really sitting down with myself and owning who Jarrod is. So what can you say with owning who you fully are in the next stages of your life? What can you say, Annie?
I think I want to say that, maybe social media is like a part of this, but I think we all get so confused because it seems like everybody else is always winning, right? Like somebody might see your process on Instagram or whatever and be like, okay, so Jarrod's going from being a trainer and now he's killing it in speaking, and you are, right? But we talking here once a week and we're all freaking out. You know what I mean? And so like I love being like a confident woman. Like that is like something I like am very like proud of and I want to inspire other people to be. But at the same time, I always want to be honest and say like usually my faith is 1% stronger than my fear. Barely. It's not like I'm like, 80% faith and 20% I'm doubting myself. I doubt myself every single day. So I would just say that just, dig deep and like believe in yourself, and also just love and accept all that you are, because those self-doubts are normal. And the other day, remember you told me you were scared about something and you didn't know how to get to the next thing, and I said, good. Embrace that, because that means you're doing something you've never done before. So instead of freaking out and going, I'm not good enough, I'm not whatever enough, I took these new headshots that are going to be super important for the next step of my career a few weekends ago. And I straight up, like, 9 out of 10 days, I feel good. I'm a healthy person, like feel confident in my body. But I had a full anxiety attack the night before because I was so wrapped up in like a body image spiral. And you might just see the photos I post next week and go, yeah, get it, girl, whatever. But I'm like, no, like there's so much behind all of us. So don't compare yourself too much to other people is kind of the thread of that. And just trust yourself.
I see here because I'm honored to be able to sit down with you, and I'm thankful because I can see you on Broadway doing what you love to do. It's going to be hard because you won't be here working with me anymore, because so many of these so-called sales meetings were a time for us to grow. Even the people that were out in these meetings, everybody was like, what's going on? Because numbers would go up. Yeah. But really, we never really talked about sales. It was really about a mental, physical, and spiritual growth that we all sat in here and grew together. I'm thankful for that. I know that it's time for you to be replanted. And I'm just going to encourage you and say, I appreciate you, because we're going to have to do this talk again once you're in New York, once you get to that time, because I am terrified in what's going to happen next. Like, I'm terrified because of stability, because of my kids, because of my wife, because of all of these things. But because I was afraid, the other night I hit send in my revision to my book. When all weekend they sent me 3 deadlines, like, Jarrod, you got to submit it. And I had been done. I had been done reading this book. And I'm like, people are going to find out who I am. People are going to know. People are going to know some deep thoughts inside of Jarrod and why I acted certain ways. But then at the end of the day, I have to allow myself to be vulnerable. And that's why I'm so thankful for Annie, because Annie is always vulnerable. Like, vulnerable in the sense of you come in, you're struggling, whether it be relationships, whether it be finances, whether it be with the structure of the job, but you still come in and love. So you loved vulnerably. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. Yeah. And that's why I have to have more people like you. So, God, I'm so thankful for you. I'm like, this isn't about God. This isn't about a religion. This isn't about that. But when you realize what he can do for you, when you allow yourself to be a vessel, then it is crazy. Because I don't deserve to be here speaking right now. Like, I don't deserve someone to call me up and say, Jarrod, I want to be your day to day. I'm like, okay, like, this is weird. I don't deserve to be able to have met someone for you and to see what you pour into this, because I always tell you, nobody's going to change unless you change. Yeah. And you create a change and a change in atmosphere at this location that has been, I can't even put into words and describe it. And you will leave that, and the remnants of that will carry on to the next person because of your efforts. So I encourage you to keep changing, because that's who we are. Yeah. It's inevitable, right? Yeah. Like, my dad used to always say, you either change or you die. There is no staying neutral. You either change and you can transition or slightly shift, or you die. Yeah. And because of that, you are already successful. So if you want to leave them with something right now, then just whatever's on your heart. But thank you for helping change me in this short amount of time, which has felt like so long, because we've had some very deep and intimate conversations. And I'll just let you have the floor and you leave them with change.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah.
How did you get to push that send button this weekend? What did you call on? How did you get there?
I always tell Laura, when I can't do something is when I do it. And I was so terrified. I called my mom and she was like, Jarrod, you probably shouldn't. This might hurt your dad, or this might hurt some people. And in my mind, I literally said, if I don't hit send, if I don't do this, then I might be missing to try to help someone else. And that was it. It wasn't this deep, God, profound thing. It was like, Jarrod, I could be missing one person. Yeah. So if it takes me to be an open book about everything, then let's open it up, because there's one person that is going to listen. There's one person that will plant a seed that will grow, not because of what I said, but because what they felt through their heart in that shift. And that's why I did. Because Lord knows I've checked the emails 3 times a day. I have. I'm like, oh my God, they haven't replied back. I probably misspelled some words. Like, this is crazy. But that's where we at. Yeah. Like, I just have to walk in faith. And I always knew that when I did this, I wanted to help people, but people have to know where I'm from. Because if not, then you're just talking. Like, nobody wants to hear the person that's speaking from the mountaintop that had a cush life.
Exactly.
My mom always said, some people go through heaven to get to heaven, and some people go through hell to get to heaven. Doesn't mean your testimony isn't worthy. Just means that sometimes people have to see the soil that you've tilled and that you've plowed your whole life to really respect what you're trying to do. And that's where I'm at. I'm not saying my testimony is more important or less.
Right.
I'm just to the point where I'm at. We're here. Read me so I can help you. I hope I answered that. I hope I answered that. I didn't have any quotes. I was going to throw out a Bob Golf quote, but I was like, you know what, Bob?
Bob, if you watch this, we stand.
Hey, I'm reading books. I want people to know. Hey, he's quoting. I read books too. But now you're slow, but I'm reading. I'm reading. One word at a time. Leave us with it, Amy.
I love it. I'll just wrap up and say kind of a little bit of what I said earlier, but don't settle. Don't lie to yourself. Be brave enough to face your own BS. What is out there that is next? Feel that fear. Embrace it. Because we just get one. We get one go around at this life that we know of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we get one. So just freaking run it.
Stop living your life for everybody else.
Oh.
That's where I'm at.
Yep.
Annie, thank you. Congratulations. We're going to do this again.
Absolutely.
Probably be FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it is. I don't know. We'll do this again.
Absolutely.
But I really do hope that people listen to this and that they were inspired, because that's who you are. You are literally a walking inspiration. So we'll go deeper. But I thank you. I love you. And God bless.
Thank you. Love you too.